stated that Brooks is very sensitive to her surroundings and to the ridicule of others. She is also very sensitive to negative feedback from authority. Is this correct?
Yes.
But despite her social anxiety, did you believe Brooks was stable and likely to succeed?
Absolutely. She's very bright.
During your session on March 21st, what did Brooks tell you about the incident with Officer Lawrence?
She was terrified, and she showed me her wrists. They were bruised, and she was visibly shaken, and she felt so much anxiety, and I felt very bad for her.
So Brooks was visibly distressed while telling you about her symptoms and the incident itself.
Very much.
You stated that the assault caused Brooks significant distress. Brooks could not focus in school, she could not sleep, and she was extremely afraid of police officers and security guards. Is all of this correct?
Yes.
So, just to clarify, Brooks was traumatized by the situation? After several weeks, you encouraged Brooks to speak to her regular doctor about her symptoms. Did Brooks' regular doctor prescribe any medication for her?
Yes. He prescribed Zoloft, which is an antidepressant, and some sleep medication.
Okay. Now, as far as you know, is Brooks still taking this medication?
I believe so.
Right. No further questions, Your Honor?
You started seeing Ms. Brooks in February of 2005, correct?
Yes.
In March of 2005, is it not true that she had a verbal disagreement with a school teacher?
That is correct.
Would you say that she has a problem with authority?
If she disagrees and feels that something has been unjustly done to her, that can be something that she does.
So, in your expert opinion, would you say that a person who is guilty would be visibly shaken up by such things as?
Objection, Your Honor, this is an opinion.
She's a professional.
She was
Is she
never
not?
established as a professional expert in her field, Your Honor, and therefore her opinion is simply the opinion of one person.
Only an opinion.
No further questions?
Defense, your counsel, your witnesses.
The defense would like to call Michelle Lawrence to the stand.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
You see.
Can you please state your name for the court?
Officer Michelle Lawrence.
All right. Can you summarize what happened on the night that these events took place?
Yes. I was just doing my regular job, monitoring the security cameras in the back until around 9:30. I then came out to check the store, just as the store rules require, and I saw the plaintiff, and she was still in the aisles. I asked her politely to leave, but she refused. She then grabbed the deodorant after standing in the aisle for a considerable amount of time, and then walked back up to the counter. I again told her that it's against her rules for her to stay, and she needed to leave, but she refused. I tried several times to restrain her gently, but she still resisted arrest.
So, it is stated that you said you were just doing your job, please get in line and check. So, that was the first time that you approached her, am I correct?
Yes.
And then she immediately got very loud and saying it was ridiculous, is that also correct?
Yes.
She told you to mind your own business?
Yes.
So then after this point, she walks up to the register even though you had already asked her to leave, is this correct?
Yes.
So this is the first time that she disobeys the law. So then, the second time, you approach her at the register, is this correct? You said that all she needed to do was leave the store, correct?
Yes.
So this is the second time
Second time.
that you have asked her to leave the store and she has resisted the law.
Objection, Your Honor. What law is being broken here exactly, defense?
She's staying on premises when she's been asked by the law to leave.
Do you have any proof that
She's
she was found
trespassed.
guilty of these charges?
Yes, she had a plea deal of 30 hours of community service.
Exactly, and because of that, the court, all charges were dropped against my client, and therefore, any evidence of her breaking the law should not be brought up today or considered, Your Honor, since all charges were
It
dropped.
goes to this entire case in and of itself. This entire case hinges on the criminal charges.
Which were dropped, Your Honor, as a result of her plea deal.
Then why are we here?
We're here for the countersuit, or the suit that my client is doing for the police department unjustly acting upon her.
Upheld. The trespassing is not relevant in today's case.
She accepted a plea deal, Your Honor, practically admitting guilt. Whether or not it's considered trespassing at this point, she's still disobeying the law.
The decision has been made. The ruling is upheld.
All right, then let's move on. So, after you approach her at the counter, she's continuing to resist your wishes, let's say. So, after this, she calls 911, is this correct? Yes. And during this call, did you or did you not ask her to stop fighting?
I did.
So at this point, it's a fight that is escalated on her part just as much, correct?
Correct.
So she said to take your hands off of me, take your hands off of me. At the time, were you trying to put the handcuffs on her?
Yes.
All right. So then, if at this point, when you pushed her down onto the belt, you were putting the handcuffs on, then did she or did she not push you and cause you both to stumble into the glass?
Correct.
So the excessive force is being used because she pushed you, is this correct? You're not using excessive force, but she pushed you, correct? All right. So, have you or have you not completed extensive police training?
That is correct.
And have you or have you not scored in the top percentile in almost all categories?
That's true.
All right. So then if you've completed these trainings and stuff, and yet they're asking for more training, do you see a need for this?
I do not.
All right. So then if...
Objection, Your Honor. That's an opinion on the ultimate issue of today's case, and I don't think the witness should be allowed to make that decision.
Defense.
The witness should be able to speak for themselves in their own opinion. That's
I did.
All right, then.
All out.
all right. Do you need to- Okay, then I have... All right, so do you recognize this?
Yes.
Please turn the page for us. Thank you.
Are these or are these not your scores from your police department personal record?
They are.
So when we look at these scores, it shows no evidence that you've ever had any issues with personal behavior, compliance with policies and standards, reliability, professionalism, leadership, and overall, you've always had a high score. Is this true?
This is true.
So this is,
Time for the question period.
Officer Lawrence, why did you take a second job at Shop All?
Because I've been having a hard time supporting my family, and I want to make sure I have enough money for my children.
So you've had difficulties in your home life, then you would say?
I would agree with that.
And is it true that you usually work the day shift at the police department from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., go home to eat dinner with your family, and then go to the night shift to Shop All from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m.?
That's correct.
Now, where were you upset that you had to work a 16-hour straight, is it true that on March 15, 2005, the police department was short-staffed, so you were required to work through the afternoon, miss dinner with your drive directly to work at Shop Hall.
That's correct.
Were you upset that you had to work a 16-hour shift?
I was, but it is worth it to me to provide for my family,
Were you upset that you missed dinner with your beloved family?
a little bit.
Were you upset that you didn't get to spend time with this family, and were you upset that the overwhelming force of the job, would you say, was getting to you?
A little bit.
Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Plaintiff Exhibit C, the police personnel record of Officer Lawrence. Officer Lawrence, do you recognize this piece of evidence?
Yes, I do.
Now, the defense counsel just showed you this evidence, Officer Lawrence, and they talked about how it was your scores. However, on the back of this, which the defense failed to point out, there are 2 instances of complaints and disciplinary action that were taken against you, were there not?
That's correct.
Now, according to your personal record, you have a history of complaints due to using excessive force. Do you use excessive force in those situations because you were upset
I used it because I deemed it was necessary,
to use excessive force and break the law as an officer?
not unless it was necessary.
Officer Lawrence, I'd like to go on then. Going back to March 15th, is it true that you began to sweep at the aisles before the store closed at 10 p.m.?
That's correct.
You said that you came across Kim at 10 p.m., correct?
Yes.
You also stated upon direct order from your manager, if I see anyone in the aisles after the store's closing time, 10 p.m., I am to instruct them to leave. Is this correct?
That's true.
Officer Lawrence, did your manager ever tell you to physically escort customers out of the store?
No.
No. In fact, Your Honor, I'd like to introduce Plaintiff Exhibit B, the Shop Hall Security Guard Handbook. Officer Lawrence, do you recognize this handbook?
Yes.
Officer Lawrence, could you please point out to the court where in the security guard handbook it says to physically escort customers out?
It doesn't.
Can you please tell me where in the handbook it says to physically arrest customers who remain in the store after closing?
Doesn't.
So neither your manager nor the handbook gave you authorization to physically escort customers out of the store, yet you took it upon yourself to physically escort, in your own words, Kim out of the store, correct? Officer Lawrence, at what time during the arrest did you read Kim her Miranda rights?
I do not.
You did not. Could you please recite your Miranda rights to the court today?
You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney.
So you did not recite these to Kim Brooks whenever you arrested her?
I do not.
No further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
I would like 2 questions.
I'll allow it.
Would you say you're a police officer or a security guard first?
I am an officer.
When you see a crime on the street, would you arrest it? When you're on duty?
I would.
No further questions.
You receive.
At this time, I would like to call up Stacy Camp.
Stacy. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You may proceed.
Could you state your name for the court?
My name is Stacy Camp.
Where do you work?
I work as the manager of the Shop Hall.
Did you interview Officer Lawrence yourself?
I did.
What were your instructions to Officer Lawrence regarding closing?
We had a strict policy of making sure that all of the customers were out of the store by closing time, and he was to sweep the aisles to make sure to do that. I did tell him that he needed to be, we've had problems in the past with teenagers not wanting to leave, and